Welcome back to another episode of the Sky Society podcast. Today, I am so excited to be chatting with Sydney Johnson. She is the Director of Marketing at Crescent Hotels and Resorts. Welcome, Sydney.
Hi, Natalie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to go through your journey. I feel like yours is very similar, where you went through this crisis of wanting to be so many different things in college before figuring out marketing is what was actually for you. So I'm so excited to dive into all of that. But before we do, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Sydney Johnson. I am a Swanee, Georgia native. So, for anybody who's familiar with Georgia, I'm northeast of Atlanta. I'm not actually an Atlantean, I promise. I will not lie. But I was raised there my entire life. And then I went off to college and graduated from Auburn University and got my degree in public administration and a minor in business and marketing. Um, After college, life happens, and everything that I had planned did not happen the way I had planned at all. But I wouldn't trade it for the world because it taught me a lot. And then I got a job as an insurance agent and moved to sunny Sarasota, Florida. And I also would not trade that for the world because that's where I am now. And I love living in a paradise. It's phenomenal. But in that time period, I have found my love and passion for marketing and social media content and being a mentor. And I do all of that with my work life balance, and it's nice. It's my own little baby paradise here.
I love it. Your little baby paradise. And we're going to dive into all of the messy journey that led you to the paradise that you are at now. But I kind of want to start with your journey through college. So you started in pre-med in college and you were dead set on becoming a surgeon. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it all starts out when you're little. Your parents are always like, they want you to be the best that you can be, and I can't blame my mom. I can't blame her. I've always been very driven. I was uh, entering college. I literally was like, I was a cheerleader. I did competitive cheerleading. I did volleyball. I played competitive co-ed flag football. I was the sporty girl. And I just knew that I've one thing that's intrinsically true to me and my character that's never failed and has applied in every part of my life is my desire to serve. I've always led with a service heart and mind. So I was like, well, obviously, if I'm going to serve people, I need to be a doctor. Duh. I want to fix people's problems and help them heal and be the healthiest version of themselves. And I, at that time, was like, the only way that I can do that is being a surgeon. And then I got to my sophomore year of college, and I absolutely hated, despised with a deep, fiery, burning passion physics. Not my thing. Not my thing. I said I didn't realize that I needed to learn all of these physics things when I just want to do a little surgery on people and make sure that their holistic being
I
is
just want to
great.
cut them open and,
I just want to
help them
I just
out.
yeah, I'm like, chemistry and certain chemistries, awesome. Biology, amazing. Anatomy, phenomenal. Physics, not my thing. It's fine. So I had, and I look back at it now, and it's not the biggest deal in the world. But back then, I had multiple nervous breakdowns. I remember vividly my mother coming to visit me, and it was closer to finals, and I had a full-on meltdown in the middle of a restaurant in the middle of campus.
Wow. In front of everyone.
Um, and she was just flabbergasted because I'm not the one really to cry, especially in such a public setting. And that was the day that I made my decision to switch over to public administration.
I love how just so you opened up just even about that, because I'm sensing that you're a high achiever your whole life and you suddenly got to a place where it felt like, I mean, it's almost like you're competitive and you felt like you couldn't win. What was it like? Like, did it feel like giving up? Like, what was it like for you to say, like, I can't do this anymore?
It hurt so bad. Talk about being knocked off your high horse and like your pride being hurt. I think that was the hardest part of all of that, because for the longest time, my mom has always pushed me to be my best self. She's never, I don't think she's ever had any desire for me to have like these false hopes and achievements. Like, she's always been very real and down to earth with me. Um, but she's a mom, like, if you make a 90, she's asking you why you didn't make a 100, because she knows that you're capable of it. And I appreciate that. But I had all of those anxieties in the back of my head, as well as my own expectations, and disappointments kind of compiled together. And it just kind of went off as like a big bomb. And I had to have conversations with my best friends at the time, and they're still my best friends today, about what my skills are, how can I apply them, and what that means, and like how that's not defined by what you do or what you major in. It's like how you act, and what you provide other people. Um, it's way more. It's deeper than just a degree, and it's deeper than the expectations of society or your parents put on you, or even yourself. So I had to do a lot of inner healing and thinking, during that time, and it was a pretty lengthy process. I'm not gonna lie, but by the time my junior year rolled around, a lot of things became very clear to me, where I was way more aligned in the class structures that I was in. I was really engaged. All of a sudden, I was making straight A's again. Um, I didn't feel like, even if I went to tutoring or went to a study group or visited my professors during study hours, that I was just completely lost. And that's when I was like, wait a second, maybe this is me also understanding that my strengths lie somewhere else, and that's okay. Like, that's totally okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's just kind of, and I think that point that you had, I've had multiple friends that go through that. I think especially with the pre-med route, because that's part of the pre-med route, is that it's just insanely hard to kind of weed out people. And you go through, I think this, especially when your whole life, you're like, I'm going to do this one thing. And then you realize that that can't happen, or it could happen, but at like a great cost to your mental health.
Yeah.
Switching is really hard because it feels like you failed in some way. And
Yeah.
so I love how you said that you just felt more aligned. And I think that's kind of when is like when like that alignment is hard to describe. And I think it feels different for everybody. But when you're doing something that you're meant to be doing, you're not having mental breakdowns in the middle of the cafeteria on campus.
You're not. And if you're having a mental breakdown when it's something that you love, you're still going, but I love it. It's just driving me crazy now.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Like,
Yeah.
man, people were probably looking at me like, oh, wow, she really needs therapy. I have a therapist for you. Don't worry.
They're handing out cards.
Yeah, I was like, I'll take it. Don't worry. But no, and you bring up failure. It's like, that's truly like, I think the time for me personally to really understand that failure is a part of the process. Like, if you're not willing to fail, then you're not willing to win either. And I mean, I've always had a winner's mindset. It's a part of me being just very, very competitive, healthily competitive now.
Nice.
But I understand that failure is a part of the process, and it's integral in the process of your success. And it comes in all shapes and forms. But you also just know, you have to learn how to tell yourself no, and ask yourself very honest questions, and even more importantly, answer them honestly, in order to address, like, areas and room for growth and development. So just
Yeah.
happy I kind of did all of that, and now I'm where I am.
Yeah, so definitely all happened for a reason. But before the whole marketing thing happened, we did have a little uh, period of time where you thought you wanted to be a lawyer. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, of course, if I can be a doctor, I want to be an attorney. And it kind of worked with perfect timing, because I had a family member of mine who, I looked at as a mentor, not just my equal. We're closer in age, but he's just a couple years older. very driven, very, very intelligent since day one. And I've always found him to be like my competitor in our family, especially. But he graduated from Vanderbilt's law program and like accelerated time. Like he just ridiculously crazy smart, uber smart. And also has the best social construct. Like he just gets it. He knows what to say. He just knows how to apply himself. And I'm like, I want to be you. Like I want to be like you, but better than you.
Like you, but better than you.
Yeah, I want to be you 2.0. And I told him that to his face. And he was like, well, you can be. And I was like, that's when I know you're my mentor. And when he graduated from law school, I went to his graduation ceremony, and they had a keynote speaker who said law transcends the courtroom. And it just clicked in my head. I was like, I should go, I should get my JD. I should become an attorney. Doesn't mean that I actually have to be in the courtroom. So of course I was public admin by then, and that's all public policy and very poli sci based, but not quite the same. But of course, I started studying for LSAT. I took the LSAT 3 times, had my application set and ready to go, and then my mom got ill, so all of that fell apart. But in that time, I did get a pretty awesome position at a law firm, as it started as their lead, the president or interim president for the lead clerk team. But then it kind of transcended into just being an actual assistant for the managing partner of the firm. And during that time, that's actually when I started getting my taste of marketing. And so I was doing legal research, and that is tedious. And for anyone who has been in law or knows anything about law school or public administration in general, reading policies in law is a job of its own. Um, and it's so boring. And I just kept thinking about how many questions we get on a daily basis at the firm about simple things to me, but they're not shown to the public, or at least easily, you know? So I had our team kind of shift through a lot of legal jargon and then make it, put in layman's terms, like if a millennial is going to read this, like what do they need to know? Or if your grandpa needs to read this, what does he need to know? And then we started creating all of these YouTube blog posts and, little snippets on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and they took off. And that's when I was like, man, maybe I should do this. This is fun. But I still wanted to be an attorney. Of course, that didn't work out.
So here we are.
Here we are.
I always love to say when people ask me and they're trying to figure out what they want to do in their life, is that the best way to figure out what you want to do is to first figure out what you don't want to do. And I feel like a lot of your journey is kind of through that, of trying these things and realizing, okay, this isn't actually for me. And it's funny because my journey is like a little bit inverse. Like first I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and then I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Like I did this whole program at NYU. I interned at a law firm in New York. Like I lived out there for a summer, and I was like, this is not for me. Like, I mean, for me, like I'm showing up to the courtroom every day, and like I just remember being in like a long white skirt and like a pink top. And then I remember like everyone on my law firm just gave me a hard time because I was like, this is just not the environment that I'm like meant to be in. Like, and then I was like,
this is the definition of me as not thriving and unwell. So
yes. Exactly. And then I was like, okay, well, like then lawyer. And it's so funny that those are the two that both of us thought of. And I feel like it's just because I think like you being a high achiever, it's like success means these like specific types of jobs that in the eyes of the public are successful jobs, right? Like, oh, being a doctor is very respectable. Being a lawyer is very respectable, but we don't necessarily think that instantly when we think of marketers. It's not necessarily one of the like high achieving careers traditionally.
Yeah. Which is just crazy to me, because also marketing is in everything that you do. You market yourself as an individual. And I think that's where I was like, you know what? I don't really think it's about titles, and that's why I like said earlier. It's more than that. It's not about your degree. It's not about where you went to college. It's not about your GPA. And yes, your GPA can help you out, but let me tell you, if you're an effective marketer for yourself, you can transcend all the places. You can break glass ceilings, um, and just achieve so much more, and then set the standard for others. And that's all on you. That's not a label. That's just who you are and how you act and how you present yourself, and what you believe. And I think that um, for a lot of us, and especially Natalie, I'm sorry, I don't know how old you are, but for me, I just feel like I was raised in that time period where it was like, well, you have to be a doctor, you have to be an attorney, or you have to be an engineer, in tech and medicine, and to make money and to be successful. And especially as a woman, it's like if you can do that, then you're done. But that's part of me breaking out of that. I'm like, I know what I can do. I
And I
know
can define success on my own terms and not
exactly,
by what other people tell me is successful.
exactly. And I feel like I'm pretty darn successful.
I would agree with that. And we're gonna get to what you're doing now at Crescent Hotels and Resorts. But before you started doing some freelance marketing, so tell me how you got into freelancing.
Yeah. So that kind of trickled out of the law firm. While I was doing that, my managing attorney, actually had quite the network of people, and he got me in touch with radio shows hosts and former representatives in the state of Alabama, and former representatives and senators in the state of Georgia, and you name it. And I was at their beck and call. Sydney, we need this little post, or can you give me a better way to say this instead? Because I don't want to say the wrong thing. And Sydney, will you be on our radio show? For what? Just because I feel like you have just a good vibe. Like, okay, that's interesting. So that's kind of how it started. And I started doing just little content blips and creative pieces for a variety of people for whatever they needed. And then when I moved back home to help my mom, I was actually working in a boutique, just cutesy boutique that I used to work at when I was in high school. And they just so happened to need somebody at that time. And it was flexible hours, so I could dip out anytime I needed to help my mom. And I was in charge of social media. And then I was in charge of the influencer program for our store and region. And I was a part of that influencer team back when I was in high school. I'm like, this whole thing is coming full circle. This is crazy.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I loved being able to put together content based on fashion, and engage people, and just have fun photo shoots. And I was like, this is a lot of fun. I love it. So then I started doing that for more people. And then I kind of flipped the switch, and that's when I moved to Florida. But when I moved to Florida, I became friends with a bunch of people who needed my services, or they had friends and family who needed services. So I started doing, social media management and content creation and scheduling and planning. And I was an assistant, a personal assistant at some point, but that actually evolved into me being their marketer, because they didn't have anyone and realized that's really what they needed, not just a personal assistant. So that's kind of how that happened. And it happened really, really fast, really fast.
Wow. What a journey. So I just because freelancing is definitely an area that I know a lot of women want to get into or are into now. Do you have any advice for women who are starting to do freelancing on maybe what they can do to get more clients or be more successful?
Yeah. Well, your network is your greatest resource. It doesn't matter if you only know two people or 10,000 people, your network will work for you. So, start off by offering something to someone without any expectations of something in return. but do it to your greatest of your ability. Because first off, to market for somebody else or to do freelance for somebody else, showcase those skills and talents through your own stuff. So I started off by making sure that my feed on my Instagram, my personal Instagram, was chef's kiss. And I made sure that any photos that I posted were high quality photos. And that's not like taking photos with, high, like these cameras and doing fancy videography. I'm not doing that. I have my iPhone. And at that time, I was not an iPhone 12 Max Pro. It's or 13 or 14, whatever number we're on. I was just taking great photos. So it's like really hone in to certain skills that that nobody else can really do or not well. And then start to offer those things to other people. So if somebody in your community, there's an event going on down the road at a vet clinic and they need photos for their website, be the person to say, you know what, I'll capture all your content for you and I'll schedule it out. Because if you need people to come in and take more appointments, then I want to be your girl. And I 9 times out of 10, they're not going to say no because they don't really have time for a vet tech or someone on staff to take all of those photos for them. So it's just trying to apply yourself in ways that might be a little more unconventional. And then beyond that, allowing your network to work for you. Because when you tell your people that you are passionate about this and they see your passion, they're never going to stifle you if they're for you. So that's kind of how I roll. Use your network. Be
Yeah.
resourceful.
And tell people that you're starting. Like I always like to say, vocalize what your goals are, because then how can you expect someone to help you if they don't even know? You don't necessarily have to ask people for help. You just got to let them know, like, hey, I'm doing this freelance thing. I'm offering these things. Like, this is what I'm doing. And people might think of like, oh my gosh, my friend can totally use your help, or I could use your help.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, heck, a couple months ago I posted on my Instagram, my personal Instagram. I was like, hey, just need like 1 or 2 more clients. I have availability. Anybody? And I had like 15 different people reach out to me in the same day. So
Oh my
it doesn't
gosh.
mean that I took all 15 clients because I don't have time for all of that. But I'm just saying, your network is your greatest resource.
Yes.
Yeah.
And don't be embarrassed to talk about it, or to
No,
share that you're
no.
doing it.
Yeah, like just go for it. I always say like you have to risk it to get the biscuit. If you don't even ask
You
for it,
have
you're
to
never
risk
gonna
it to
get it.
get the biscuit. I love
You do.
that.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta risk it to get the biscuit. And like that's I feel like you asking or you requesting people to pay attention to what you want to offer them, that's not really risking anything because it's something that you want to do, right? This isn't like, oh, I think I'm gonna just, bet on this thing because hopefully it'll be great. You already know that you're great and you already know the product that you can offer and the services that you can offer. So it's like I feel like that's not I mean that's a pretty easy bet then in my opinion. It's like just go for it and then deliver. And if you're amazing, over deliver. And I promise you people will just keep coming back. That's it.
I love that. Okay, amazing. So you're doing freelancing. Tell me about how you ended up where you are now. So as a director of marketing for Crescent Hotels and Resorts.
Yeah. So I during COVID, I actually got laid off from a job. Crazy. And that was like stab in my heart. I felt like, oh my God, my world is about to end. Holy cow, what am I supposed to do now? But I actually just kind of leaned into more of my freelance. I picked that up because, as I said, I mean, marketing isn't everything that you do. Everything that we do in life needs marketing. Even COVID had marketing. So, um, so I just kind of honed in. I actually took because as you heard earlier, I have a degree in public administration, and I have a minor in marketing, but I really wanted to hone in on the marketing. So during the downtime and, everybody being closed off, I actually took a few certification courses, free and paid. Definitely take advantage of Google courses and HubSpot courses because a lot of them are free. They're awesome too. So I took a bunch of those. I basically was in school again for myself. And I got a bunch of certifications and learned so much during that time. And then really taught myself some very specific things about content creation, um, almost like borderline graphic design, but not graphic design. I would consider myself to be a Canva expert.
You and me both. Canva
Yeah,
queen.
I love me some Canva, but I basically created a portfolio of stuff. And it wasn't really for anybody, but it was for me. And I created that portfolio. And until I knew I had more clients to put into that portfolio, that was my ghost portfolio. So if someone asked me when I'm, pitching myself to them, what do you have? I'm like, well, there you go. But let me apply it for you. And it worked out. I got like 4 different contracts. I was working for a startup company. I was working for influencers locally and globally. Um, and it was awesome. I loved every bit of it. But then through all of that, I said, I really want to, I'm young. I want to make sure that I take this time to also apply myself in a corporate setting and really truly gain the developmental skill set and certain things that you do learn in an organization. Not to say that you're not going to be great and successful outside of it, but it's only going to, propel you for the future. So I just took advantage of that and I started working for a startup restaurant here locally. And it actually grew into not just a restaurant, but clubs and you name it, and hospitality. And I really enjoyed it. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. And the only reason I left that job is because I found this one that I'm in right now with Crescent Hotels at the Sarasota Modern. And the reason I left is because they offered me an opportunity to grow within the company. And that was really important to me. They also didn't stifle me from having my freelancer position. So I was like, okay, wow, you really respect me as an individual. Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it trickled over into this. And now I'm, full time director of marketing.
Amazing. I want to jump back. You mentioned that you created a portfolio. That is one of the biggest things I love to recommend to women who are looking to stand out in their job applications. Do you have any tips for women who are creating their marketing portfolios?
Yeah, don't get stressed out about the whole thing of it being a portfolio. A portfolio at the end of the day just describes you, right? And what you have to offer. And then an example of what you're offering. It's not more complicated than that. And I feel like when I was actually going through trying to create my portfolio, I was like, uh, what am I missing? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I started literally looking into portfolios for web designers and all of way more complex things, where it's like you really do need some nitty gritty stuff in there. And I'm like, it's not really it though. So yeah, if you don't have clients, make up clients and put the stuff that you would do for an actual real client in a portfolio to show these are my expertise. I know I can do it regardless of how many people I have under my wing of experience. This is who I am, because a lot of people, there are a million people who do marketing and content creation and PR and you name it. But what sets you apart is you. It's your character. It's your values and your morals and your energy too. And let that be the showcase. Let that shine in your portfolio. And then the rest is, just up to the person if you guys work. But yeah, don't get caught up in all of the crazy jargon that you could put into a portfolio. Just start off simple, clean, about you, the content that you're passionate about, what you're going to provide people, what you do well, your character, and then the rest will take off from there as you grow.
I love that. And especially for people who are I don't know what to put in mine. I think what you said about doing those mock projects. So just saying, okay, if I were the marketing coordinator at, insert the company, this is, how their social media feed would look, or this is how I would design their email newsletter. Or this is what, their holiday paid ad campaign would look like. Such a great way to just showcase your talent.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then beyond that, even if you're not in freelance, if you're applying for a job, like part of what I did to really like nail them on wanting me is, before they could even ask me what my thoughts were about the current state of digital marketing for the property, I had already done a full analysis
Wow.
on my own. Because again, if I'm going to be in that role, it's only going to benefit me to know that. And it only took a few hours of my day. So just do it. If you already know that that's the company that you want or that's the client that you want, present a package to them and be like, okay, you're cool and you're great. And I love you for all of these XYZ reasons, but A, B, and C are failing. And this is how I can fix them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
They can't, I mean, all they're going to look at you and go is, well, hot diggity dog, we have a winner.
Yeah, that's such a great way to stand out on job applications. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're talking about you doing all these amazing things and achieving such great success, but one of the things that you've also dealt with throughout your career is imposter syndrome. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. And it's actually something I still deal with today. So I think it stems from one being young in my field, number one. Number two, also my competitive mindset. Number three, having extremely high expectations of myself that I've typically been able to achieve at some point, but in the workplace, especially now, I'm typically the youngest in the room. I have people question my abilities, not based on what I've offered them, but just, I walk into the room and they're like, "Are you the assistant?" or, "Are
Yeah,
you
I
the
can relate.
intern?" Yeah, "Are you the intern?" And I don't think they mean anything mean by that, but it does allow me to get into this space, especially when there are big projects on the line, or things aren't, whether things are going well or not. I do get into these weird spaces, and I start to question, like, should I be a director of marketing? Like, am I too young? Like, should I be doing more? What else can I be doing? Like I feel like I'm doing something, but maybe I'm not. And well, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be a marketing director. That's crazy. Why am I thinking this? And I have these like internal thoughts in my head, and I'm like, man, but I think it only stems from just being, it's like an ageism thing. And um, I feel like we're starting to break that mold, especially as like millennials start to take more leadership positions, because we're like on that cusp of like understanding and like breaking kind of the norms of society. And it's only going to get better because, man, generations are something else. Um, but I just feel like I'm still kind of working on showing that my age doesn't mean that I am not the best candidate, or my thoughts and opinions don't matter, or they're not going to change the trajectory for a project or this organization. Um, and it's something that you just have to work on every day, honestly. I think the way I combat it is, one, talking to my friends and family, because who feels it knows it, and who knows it feels it. So I talk to them, and they kind of talk me off a ledge. One, but also I kind of do like affirmations to myself, and they're not like
Yes.
affirmations of like, it's, yeah. I mean, it goes beyond just being like, you're great, and you're successful, and you're driven, and all of those are amazing, but I take my affirmations a little further, and I say, I will give myself a specific stat, because a lot of what I do, I can follow up with a KPI, or I have an ROI. And so in the workplace, even if I'm feeling like maybe I shouldn't be here, I go, well, you just made $10,000 off of something. So, and that was your initiative. Or you met this KPI goal or you're exceeding it, and that's on you. Like nobody else helped you with that, or like your team helped you with that, but that was the initiative that you brought to the table. So of course you're doing something great. And I literally give myself a high five in the mirror, and I got that from Mel Robbins. Um,
Yes, I love Mel Robbins.
yeah,
She's
yeah, I got that from Mel
amazing.
Robbins. Yeah, and I just love her. She's, oh my God, phenomenal. So I read her book and I was listening to another podcast, Boss Babes, and she was on and she was like, she does this rocket thing of like 3, 2, 1, and she pops up and does her stuff. And I kind of do the same thing, but it's really like I give myself those affirmations and I'm like, high five, girl, you go. Now go
Yeah.
get them.
Because no one else will give those to you sometimes. So you just got to give them to yourself because, like, looking at, I think what you mentioned too, of like, yeah, there's those maybe more like non-concrete affirmations of just like your soft skills, but actually going and looking at like, I did these things, like, I deserve to be here. Because
Yeah,
I think a lot of young professionals feel that imposter syndrome when they're starting. And honestly, the people that are 10 years older than them are feeling the imposter syndrome just like they are, but no one
yeah,
talks about it. And so everyone's just kind of pretending that everything's okay when nothing's really okay. And everyone is feeling imposter syndrome and no one feels like they belong there, but everyone is there. And so I love that little like high five or of just like acknowledging your accomplishments, because if we don't do it for ourselves, then oftentimes like no one else will. And then that
yeah,
can kind of lead us to feeling that imposter syndrome.
yeah, yeah. And that also like allows you, it's like just I feel like being proactive about your own review process is also really helpful because if you're getting ahead of things, like, if you have a boss and your boss or your client is asking you for certain things, and you know that those are the objectives and those are the goals, and if you're constantly going, well, I did this and I checked this one off and I checked that box and I completed this assignment early, or, even if it's on time, but I did it and I made sure that it was to the best of my abilities. It's like you're reviewing yourself. So then when it actually comes down to the point where someone else has to judge you, or, give some criticism or review your efforts or your work, it's like you already know. It's like there's no surprise, and you've also given yourself enough time to do some like internal growth and development too, because we are always sponges and we're always learning. There's never something that we can't learn and grow from. But it's helpful because then you can't get into an imposter syndrome. You're like, I'm no, I'm good. Like I know what I can do and I know my abilities. I know my weaknesses too, and I'm working on them. And yeah, so therefore I'm not an imposter. I'm exactly where I need to be. So that's how I combat it. But I mean, it's an everyday thing. It's a cycle.
It is, and everyone's dealing with it. Even your boss is dealing with it, and your boss's boss is dealing with it, and your boss's boss's boss is feeling it. So it's just something that's always there. So instead of just trying to get rid of it, I think your strategy of just learning how to live with it instead of get rid of it
Exactly.
is the better way to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Sunny. Well, this has been so much fun. I feel like we've gone through so many different things. My last question for you is, do you have any last piece of advice for women in marketing?
Yeah. Well, kind of rewinding back to what I said earlier, failure is a part of the process, sis. I promise you. If you're not failing, then you're not doing it. I promise. You have to fail in order to succeed. You have to fail so that you learn what you need to do better and how to grow and to develop. And you should fail every day, really. Failing is so imperative to the process. And I think I learned that. I know I'm still young, but I learned that I feel like too late. And if that's something that I learned from when I was a kid, or, getting into college, or even just right out of college, I feel like I would have set myself up um, for success a little faster, or a little better. And I know that success and failure looks different for everyone, and everyone's journey is completely different. But failure is a part of the process. And also, don't compare your failures or your flaws to other people, because they have different ones and their flaws might
Mhm.
not look the same. So it's not fair to you. So just keep, focus, keep your head straight, It's okay if people get mad at you or you fail at something or someone says no. It's just all a part of life. There will be many yeses and many successes to come.
You got to risk it to get the biscuit.
You gotta risk it to get the biscuit.
I love it. All right, Sydney, where can our audience find you if they want to learn more about you?
So you can follow me on Instagram at consider, so CONSYD, like the first part of my name, this. And so that's my personal. And then I also have my LinkedIn, so Sydney Johnson on LinkedIn. I'm also following Sky Society, so you can connect with me
Yay.
through there. And also, if you want to reach me on email or if you have any questions, I'm always available. It's at considerithandled at gmail.com. So, but I'm always here, all ears. And if you need advice, I'm always here for my community. So, whatever you guys need.
Well, thank you so much, Sydney. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I've learned so much. So thank you again for coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me again, Natalie. It's a pleasure.